Hey mom, dad's screaming. What's he watching? Not to worry dear, it's just the Scream movie. Whether you've been binging on your nuptial rights, watching Westworld, or dodging Dementors, we're here for your weekly dose of murder mayhem. The bloody deaths in Scream aren't limited to just one season. All these deaths will get you screaming the loudest more than dad. Here are the nominees, but only one can win. First up is Kieran's death. Oh Kieran, we're going to miss you so much. Kieran Wilcox is another character who doesn't get much screen time before getting killed, but he makes up for it with his final moments on screen. After being stabbed multiple times by Emma, he crawls over to her and pulls out an axe from under his bed, which he then uses against her before dying from his injuries. It's a very effective scene that shows how far Emma has come since the previous season. She was once terrified of this guy, and now she's able to kill him without breaking a sweat. Next we have Tina Moore's death. This one was just plain weird. Tina is murdered by Piper Shaw, who shoots her with a bow and arrow multiple times before stabbing her in the heart with it as well. Why did Piper do this? To make sure Tina didn't get married before Halloween, when they planned on killing their husbands together because they thought they were witches or something like that. Not sure how much sense it really makes. Now, on to Brooke's death. Brooke never saw it coming. In the third episode of Scream Season 3, we saw Brooke, Carlson Young, get her throat cut by a masked killer while trying to escape through a window. Though she managed to survive long enough to reach help, Brooke was unable to escape this attack unscathed or even alive. Up next is Emma's mom, the one where Emma's mom is on the phone with her and hears the killer outside their front door. She opens it and sees nothing but an empty hallway, but then she looks down and sees a bloody footprint on the floor. She closes the door, locks it, runs into her room, and finds a knife sticking out of her stomach. Let's just say it was one of the happiest moments of Emma's mom's life. And now for Jill's death, the one where Jill wakes up in her parents' bed after having been kidnapped by the Ghostface killer, who has been terrorizing Lakewood for weeks now. This is episode 3. She looks around for a moment before realizing that she's not alone. A man is sitting across from her in a chair. He tells her that she should have stayed asleep. Then he walks over to Jill, grabs a hold of her head with both hands, and bashes it against his knee until she dies. Who else figures Jill's death was just an elaborate prank? She must be chopping onions somewhere, right? Next is Olivia's murder. Olivia should have gotten more mileage out of those knives. Like, a lot more mileage. And then she should write us a thank you note for warning her about it. The next best kill was also a stabbing. Olivia's murder at the hands of Jake, or Kiki Palmer. He stabbed her in the back with a knife that had just been used on another victim, so it was already covered in blood. Stabbing someone in the back is always fun to watch, but when you add the element of surprise to it, well, let's just say my heart stopped beating for a second there. And then he grabbed her face and said, "I'm sorry," before pulling her into an embrace. Then he stabbed her in the chest. I almost passed out from shock at that moment. Now on to Jodi's murder. This is one of our favorite murders in the Scream TV series. It starts with Jill getting a text from her friend Jodi, asking her to meet her at school because she has something important to tell her. Jill agrees and goes to meet Jodi at Lakewood High School, where she is later found dead. The killer then calls up Jill and tells her that they did it because they wanted someone who'd understand what it feels like to lose someone close to them. This scene was so gripping because it was really well executed by both actors involved, and it had me on the edge throughout its duration due to how realistic it felt. Up next, we have Joan's death. Rima had had enough of her mother Joan's meddling in her life, so she decided to burn her alive in her own bed after poisoning her with rat poison earlier in the episode. We're not sure if this is what Joan would have wanted in death, but it was certainly memorable. The whole thing was pretty brutal and unexpected, but it was also one of the most graphic deaths we've seen in Scream so far. Now for Karen Wright's death. One of the most shocking deaths in the Scream franchise was Karen Wright's murder at the hands of her husband Bob. When she goes into their bedroom to get her phone charger, he attacks her with a knife and stabs her multiple times. While she's still alive, he wraps up her body in plastic bags and puts it in their freezer so that no one will find out what he's done. It's a truly horrifying scene that shows just how far Bob has gone to cover up his crimes. Up next, Tatum Riley. In episode 8, Cursed, we see a lot of people die in an old cabin, but the most notable death is that of Tatum Riley, played by Emilia Rose Blair, who gets stabbed by her friend Lindsay, played by Bethany Brown. Lindsay has been cursed by the ghost hunter Warren Mears, or Keegan Allen, who has also killed Lindsay's boyfriend. The curse causes Lindsay to hallucinate and act out violently, including killing Tatum. Now let's talk Billy Loomis. This was by far the best kill in the entire season. It was brutal, shocking, and satisfying to watch, as it involved two characters. We love getting revenge on someone who deserved it. The way that Billy beat Dr. King to death with his cane was brutal and painful to watch, but it was also poetic justice for everything that Dr. King did to him over the years. The scene was so good that it inspired me to write about why Billy Loomis would make an amazing horror movie villain. There are so many great moments in the new season of Scream, and we want to know which one you think is best. Up next we have Emma Duval's death. Emma Duval is one of the most important characters in Scream, the TV series. She was the first girl to die, and she was also the first victim to be killed on screen by Ghostface. Her death was also one of the most brutal in the entire series, with her throat being slashed open before being hung from a noose over her bed. It was also one of the most shocking moments in the whole series because it was unexpected, especially since she was such an important character at that point in time. And now, on to Audrey Jensen's killing spree. There have been plenty of standout moments in the third season of Scream, but one scene that truly shines above the rest is Lakewood's own Deputy Sheriff Audrey Jensen's killing spree. In the show's most recent episode, All In, Audrey was kidnapped by Jake and Kieran, who locked her up in a room and interrogated her about their mother's death. After they left, Audrey used her phone to call 911 and managed to escape from her restraints. She then broke into the basement where she found Kieran trying to kill Zoe with an axe. She quickly shot him twice in the head before moving on to Jake, who was still holding Kieran's gun. Audrey grabbed him by his throat, pulled him closer and said, "You're not taking anyone else from me." She then shot him twice in the chest before he could do anything else. The scene was incredible because it showed just how far Audrey would go for justice, even if it meant killing someone she loved. Her actions were also justified because Jake had been trying to kill Zoe all season long, so he really didn't deserve any mercy from Audrey at this point anyway. It also gave us a sense of closure after everything Jake had done. Now for Bex Taylor's death. The death was unexpected, but also incredibly satisfying. We'll admit that we didn't see it coming, but we're glad it happened because it was one of the most memorable deaths yet. It was also extremely dark since she was killed by her own mother, who had been possessed by Ghostface all along. And on to Noah's death. The first episode of Season 2 was bloody, with Noah being the first victim to die. The fact that he was killed right in front of Emma and Audrey made it even worse, especially since they had just met him minutes before. It was a shocking moment that got you hooked on the show immediately. Finally, we have Bryce's death. Bryce was a terrible human being, but we have to admit that his death was pretty damn satisfying. After uncovering the truth about Emma and Piper's relationship, he came back with a gun and found himself face to face with Emma and Piper, who were ready to fight back against him. In an epic showdown between Bryce and Emma, they shot each other simultaneously, but both survived. When Emma went to help Piper up, she realized that her friend had been shot in the head by Bryce, which meant she needed some medical attention right away, or else she'd die. And that's a wrap on this video. Thanks for watching.